Making money at home using AI compute power is all the rage in 2025. And if you're watching this video from any type of PC at home, you could be generating a passive income in under 5 minutes. So today I want to show you exactly how to do that. You use your gaming PC, you run an application, and you're away. It's that simple. I also want to take you through how to build a dedicated AI compute rig. So this is a rental rig. You can build it on a budget, cheapest chips, and start making money today. So without further ado, let's start with the easy ones. Let's take you through a couple of applications you can use on Windows to get started right now. So today we're talking about a program called Salad.ai. So it's an AI usage program that's going to make good use of those resources while you're offline. Very basically, all it's going to do is allocate your GPU, CPU, or a slight amount of bandwidth towards AI programs being rented by people around the world. Really, really easy to set up, and it's making some good profits, particularly if you have a higher end GPU. So today I'm going to run through the exact setup and go through it so it's quick and easy. It won't take any more than 10 minutes. So I'll leave links down below. We're going to go to salad.com. You can have a read through of everything that's going on in here in your own time. You don't need me to read that for you. You need me to tell you how to do it. So we're going to click on Earn with PC, and you're going to click Log In and make an account. So once you've made that account, it will take you over to this next page here. Now, ignore everything we've got going on here numbers wise. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end. First thing you're going to do is click this download button, download the app. So once it's downloaded, you'll see it right here. You'll just have to click the executable file and run straight through it. Very easy to set up. As you can see, we're pretty much done. It's going to work its way through now. Installing Salad. Let's finish and run Salad itself. So the app itself is loading up now. That's all you need to do to get it installed once you've made an account. It'll ask you to log in again, and we'll take you back to this main page that we're on, or we were on right before. It's got a list of these different rewards, but we will, like I said, go through those later. So we just have to wait a minute and it will connect to the kitchen. As you see, we're already set up. So we click Set Up PC. Now it's going to tell you what we've got inside here right now. On this recording PC, we've got a 3080 and we've got 32 gigabytes of RAM. So if you had a 3090 or a 4090 or something with say 24 gigabytes of VRAM, these numbers double again. So this is looking at about 11 cents to 6 cents, depending on the job, USD per hour you can make. Now that of course is before electricity, so you'll have to add your electricity costs in there. So let's click continue. I like to let Salad automatically select the best performing workloads. You can configure your own workload if you need to. There are a couple of things in here. It does say adult content. Now that's using some of the bandwidth. I've got no idea specifically which type of adult content that's being used, but you can turn that on or off if you like. Me personally, I don't care what people do. Leave it on, a little bit of extra money. So we'll let it automatically configure, and it's going to ask you to select a target reward. So this is where you've got a few different options. So we see some stuff right here. Look, we've got Discord stuff, Kiwi Clicker, Nitro Basic, but what are we interested in? The prepaid MasterCard, $5 is the minimum target, or the PayPal balance. So I've already selected this, but we'll select it again to click confirm, and then open straight back up to Salad and click finish setup. Now down here, chopping power. See, we're 4 out of 5 at the moment. So to get the full star chef chopping power, which is going to give you a little bit more profitability, you need to chop for over 50 hours a week. So your first couple of days, you're not going to be at full rewards. You need to enable all the resources, which it does automatically. It sets up the container environment automatically. Got sufficient storage, and we're chopping using in-demand hardware. So a 3080 right now is in demand with 32 gigabytes of RAM as well. So we're set up for success so far. So We could just start chopping, but I want to go through a few more things for you. If we click on performance, we can see right now my GPU is being utilized. That's 40% for the recording. But when it clicks up to 100%, that's when you'll be mining and it will shut off other resources. So in here in the workload preferences, I would recommend enabling your CPU and GPU. It uses very little CPU resources, but 100% of the GPU. So that's why it's good to use while you're not working on it. And I'll show you how to set up that schedule for that later. We want to change our maximum storage use. This is for the containers when it downloads jobs up to 500 gigabytes. It's going to give you the most profitable jobs that way, along with allowing elevated permissions. Click on that. There are some more advanced options down here as well. Now let's go into them, and this is the scheduling. So this is where it can work really good for you. Make this a little bit bigger on your screen. Right there. So we see down here, paused is blank, no mining is grayed out, and auto start is in green. So for instance, if you worked a 9 to 5 on your desktop PC, you could just click all of these out completely, or you could just gray them out like this. Okay, so that way Salad's not going to run while you're working on the PC, but as soon as it goes over that time threshold, it will start chopping straight away. There's also the auto stop or auto start sections, crypto mining enabled. That's going to be a bandwidth thing again as well. Give you a little bit of extra profits, but that's really all we need to set up right here. Now we'll click chop now so you can get an idea. We'll see Salad is looking for a job compatible with your hardware. Now you can't see it up on the screen, but just up here a message popped up saying basically your GPU is in use, so it will wait till that finishes before it stops chopping. But that's all we need to do, and we're away and mining. Now if you want to get an idea of how much you could be making off this while you're offline, on your main salad.com summary page, you would click on earn up the top, the Salad network monitor. Now this is showing you the in-demand hardware right now. So you can see some of the prices. Even the 2070s older hardware are making a tiny bit of money. But if we look at the 3080, nearly 8 cents an hour. You got to pay electricity on that, so you know, maybe a little bit more. You've got the higher end stuff, you know, the 4080, 10 cents an hour. And I think there was a 4090 in here, 4090, sorry, making 16 cents. So you can see also it's telling you how much RAM it needs and how much storage. So if you want, you could go and check these specs before you decide to get into this. But that's all there really is to it. We're up and away and mining. We've got in-demand hardware, and you're utilizing your GPU and a bit of your CPU for a little bit of extra profit. So Salad is a really good, easy way to start if you're looking to generate a few bucks here or there, depending on your hardware. Next up, I want to talk about a program called OctaSpace, which is just as easy and at times even more profitable. All right, so let's show you exactly how to install this. Now, this is through Windows WSL. I will leave a link down in the description for this page. It has all of the install guides and recommendations, but it is pretty much self-explanatory. It does almost do itself, give or take a few minor details. So as I said, a link will be in the description. Go there. The first thing you're going to want to do is download this OctaSpace node manager. So you'll click on that. The file will download, and then we'll start this install. So we'll double click right here. Click next. Choose the folder or file that you want it to be saved in, depending on where you've got the available space. We'll click next again and install. Now this will take 20 seconds. It sort of does nothing at the start and then rips through it. As we can see right there, install is done. We're going to launch the OctaSpace node manager now. So that's already opened up. You'll have to accept the terms and conditions, like anything, accept that, go straight through. And it's going to check that all of the system requirements are there. So the Windows supported version has to be Windows 11, system architecture, your virtualization support needs to be on, WSL needs to be installed, and you need sufficient disk space. So this is 200 gigabytes you'll need to run the Dockers. So make sure you've got a minimum 200 gigabytes to start. Click continue. Then we're going to click install node. Now you can choose and allocate how much of this disk size you want to use. I'm just going to use the standard. You can also select how much RAM you want to allocate. Now I would let it automatically do all this stuff itself. If you're trying to use the maximum capacity for your RAM, you're not going to be able to run Windows in the background. So let it do its thing and click install. So as we can see, it's working its way through it now, downloading Ubuntu rootfs, sorry. Going to create the instance, it's going to set up the Docker and install the OSN service. That's the OctaSpace node service. So we'll give that a few minutes, let it run through, and then take the next step. So after a few minutes, that will have generated its node token. So we can scroll down here as we see, and this is our node token right here. Now, this will be very important to keep. So copy that, save it in a notepad or something like that so you can't lose it, or screenshot it. So we'll just click Control C. We'll click OK. I've noted the token. Next step, get started. So that is all now set up on the install end side of it. So we've got a few more steps before we can get there. Next step will be to make an OctaSpace account if you don't already have one. So I will leave a link down in the description so you can just click on that, make yourself an account. And then the next step will be to click up here in the top right on your user profile and click Cube Profile. So this is where we're going to use that node token. So we'll come in here. You can see everything on the screen there for you. Yep. So let's open that up again. Which one is it? This one right here. There we go. Now we're going to need to set up this node properly. So we're going to click on here. We're going to click hosting. That'll load up. We're then going to click on nodes, and we're going to need to add a new node. So we click add node. And this is where we're going to paste in that token that we had before. This is my main PC, so I guess we'll call it main PC. Pretty straightforward. Click create. So currently it says it's offline, but not for long. So after a couple of minutes, that will come online, and we can see right now it says idle. Now it's going to want to run a few benchmarks and all that sort of stuff. We'll click on this. And before it runs all those benchmarks, it does say the verification is failed right now. That just needs a restart. Let's go into the configuration itself. Now, I like to turn the VPN off, and I have been given some advice that the VPN service on Windows is best to be left off for now. So leave that off and then come in here and set your price. So you can set whatever you want. This is a 3080 and a 9950X. Let's put it at 20 cents here. Click Save Settings, and that will save itself successfully there. The next step coming up will be the benchmarking. So right now we can see we are back online, and you can see it says it's busy. So right now it's running its benchmarks, it's checking CPU speeds, GPU clocks, RAM, internet connection, all that sort of stuff. So this will take about 5 to 10 minutes. So let it run all these benchmarks before we move on, because it's going to need all that information so you can display that on the marketplace and people can decide whether or not to rent your rig. All right, so the benchmarking is now done. We can tell this because it says we are idle. So that means benchmarking's done and we have not picked up a rental job yet. So to give you a bit more of a look in here, we can see under performance, it now has all of the information for this rig, the Blender score, the Blender CPU score, the network speed, all of that sort of stuff. And again, back into your configuration, you can change all of these prices to whatever you want. Now 20 cents is a bit high for a 3080, but we just threw that in for the numbers. So that's it, up and running. And if we jump back over into the marketplace, we can see our 3080 is right here. So this is my rig right here. Now you'll notice it says it's got a 0 down and 0 up speed at the moment. If you have this issue, don't worry. I've had this on some other rigs before. You can reboot the rig and it will re-verify itself and it should fix that up. I've had that happen a couple of times, not to worry at all. So now that we've done with the Windows, the easy stuff, the 5-minute setups, I now want to take you through exactly how to build your own budget AI rental rig. This is a lot easier than you might think, and I'm going to take you through it step by step, the parts, the price, the build, and show you everything involved that you need to know if you wanted to build a dedicated rig. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is the rig itself. So as you can see, it's already pre-built. We won't be taking you through the exact build of this video today. I've done a ton of different build videos before, and they're all exactly the same. I will insert some footage of how I built this 5090 rig right here, because it's exactly the same way I built this rig. So if you do need any information on how to install all these parts, that will be in there. But speaking of parts, let's have a look at what we've got before we talk pricing over on the computer. So to start off, this is our GPU. This is a 3060, a 12 gigabytes of VRAM, 3060, a P&Y edition, just the two fans. So these are really, really cheap. You can get them secondhand. And the reason we chose this one is because of the 12 gigabytes of VRAM. You know, great for different AI tasks, rendering, all that sort of stuff. We've also got 64 gigabytes of RAM in this. Could probably get away with 32, but all of these parts I've already had. So we decided to build them out of what we've already got. Along with that, we've got a cheap 500 watt PSU. As you can tell, it's not modular. We've got cables going everywhere, which is annoying, but it is cheap. Our SSD, we've just got a 256 gigabyte M.2. Again, really, really cheap. Now, these other rigs, like my 5090 rig right here, we do all have 1 terabyte SSDs on this and on the 3090 rigs, but I have noticed that quite often a lot of the jobs that these other rigs get are only using up about maybe 20 gigabytes max so far of disk space. So I thought, in the sake of a budget build, 256 gigabytes would be all right. Now our motherboard, all we really need to make sure with the motherboard for our 1 card rig is that it's got 1 X16 lane, which this does. This is a B450M-A Pro Max 2. Again, a rig that I had. This is an Assassin thermal ride. I'll have to check that. Again, another high-speed cooling fan for the CPU, which under there is a 5900X. So this is going to be a pretty solid little build. So let's jump on over to the computer. We'll talk about pricing and take you through a little deeper why I picked some of these parts, and then we'll get you set up in the installation process, because it may look somewhat difficult using HiveOS and Linux, but I've got a few little cheat codes to make this really, really easy. Attention crypto miners, are you ready to level up your mining game? Then look no further than CryptoMinerBros.com, your go-to source for top-of-the-line mining equipment. Crypto Miner Bros stock the latest ASIC miners and partner with the most trusted brands like Bitmain, Goldshell, Jazzminer, and Ice River, just to name a few. Plus, with manufacturers' warranties of 6 to 12 months, worldwide shipping, and 24/7 customer support, you're fully covered no matter where you are. So let's talk parts and pricing. Now, as I mentioned, all of these parts that you've seen on this build, I have already bought long ago. But to give you an idea of some of the pricing for some of these things, we've gone on eBay.com. And if we scroll down, we've searched by recently sold items and used items. To start with, the B450M, recently they've been selling for 20 bucks. We've got one for 10 bucks there, you know, 60, 70. You're probably closer to around the sort of $40 to $50 range for these. But as I said, if you're only running 1 GPU on this rig, then 1 X16 PCIe lane will be enough, and this board has that. Now, if you did want to add multiple rigs to a motherboard, I would recommend looking for something different. You will have to spend more money because you'll need multiple X16 lanes. Now, I haven't tested whether they work well off risers. Maybe someone in the comments can let me know. But for starters, the motherboard, the B450M, 20 to 50 bucks secondhand, super cheap. So moving on to the CPU, we've opted for a 5900X in the sake of budget builds. Now, this is an 8-core, 16-thread CPU, so it's a solid CPU, but not as good as something, say, the 5950X or my 7950X. They have 16 cores and 32 threads. So if you did want to create something a bit bigger, perhaps a 16 core CPU might do you. But looking at the prices here in the recently sold, 85 bucks, 90 bucks secondhand, you'll get yourself a decent CPU. Very briefly, let's skim over a couple of the less important parts. The 256 gigabyte SSD, 20 bucks. You could probably get it even cheaper. I would recommend going for a 1 terabyte SSD. In US dollars, they're probably going to be closer to the sort of $70 range, maybe even $60. You could pick one up. But we want to test this budget build with as low a specs as possible, within reason. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're going to get this rented and make money. But for now, the 256 gigabytes will get us started. The CPU fans, very important. You want something high CFM. I use a ton of these Thermalright Assassin V2s. Now that fan we had on that rig, it was a different brand. It was a Thermalright Assassin X120. So that did come with one fan, but I did bootleg on another fan to itself. If you were gonna build in budget, I would recommend the Thermalright Assassin V2 right here. 15 bucks, cheap as chips. Now talking RAM, I've got 64 gigabytes in that rig. Depending on what motherboard you buy, whether it has 2 RAM slots or 4 RAM slots will determine what sort of price you will pay for RAM. 32 gigabyte RAM sticks will be more expensive than 416. So if you were trying to get it in the budget range, 25 bucks you could spend. I would recommend spending a little bit more and getting something a little bit more reputable. For instance, we've got 16 gigabytes right here for 26 bucks. 32 I'd recommend as a minimum, 64 even better, just so you're really sort of maximizing the use of your rig, but 32 will get you out of trouble. The power supply, secondhand, really cheap, 20 bucks, 40 bucks. If we scroll down here, what have we got? 35 bucks, another, well, we probably wouldn't use that. There you go, an EVGA 500 watt, 30 bucks. Something like this would be great. Again, if you wanted to be safe, I would always recommend buying brand new. You can get these not in the EVGA brand for 50, 60 bucks, a brand new 500 watt. Make sure you do your own research and calculate the total power draw of your CPU, motherboard, and your GPU before you opt for your size of your PSU. 500 watts will be plenty for this build, as the 3060, which we're moving on to now, only pulls, I think, 170 watts max. And that CPU will pull about 100, 120, 130. So we're well within the range here. And speaking of that 3060, about 120 bucks secondhand again, super cheap. Tons of these. It is older generation hardware. An EVGA 3060 12 gigabyte, 110 bucks. That'd be a really good buy for something like this. A great brand. So that's exactly what we're looking for as far as parts is concerned. So why don't we now move on and have a look at the actual build process. Now this footage you'll see right coming up next is of my 5090 7950X build, but all the parts go in the exact same slots, and it's all exactly the same for every rig, give or take a few very random scenarios. So let's jump on over and see how these things get built. All right, so as discussed, this is the footage from my 5090 build with the 7950X. Same thing, got our SSD just being slotted in right here and screwed down. As you can see, this part of the installation, very easy. Motherboard already mounted and on one of those frames. CPU installation, so that will have a little arrow, as you can see right there, which should slot in. I like to give it a little wiggle to make sure it's sitting in properly before I start applying this thermal paste. Now the thermal paste is what's going to help keep your CPU cool. Once you put that cooler on top, it's a giant heatsink, will help reduce all the temperatures with those fans, blow all of the hot air out. Now this is probably more thermal paste than you need necessarily, but my logic with this is the more the merrier. I haven't had any issues where it causes any problems, so I always put more than we need. These are the little mounting brackets for our fan, in our case for the budget build, the Thermalright Assassin V2. So each different cooler you have will come with all the parts specific to your board. You just need to make sure you follow the instructions there, but this is very, very simple stuff. Something anyone can do. The fan itself, or the cooler I should say, this is the giant heatsink. So this gets mounted on top there and tightened down, so it forms a nice bond between the thermal paste, the CPU, and this heatsink itself. This gets mounted before we install these fans, which are coming up next any minute now. Yes, here we go, fans. So this has got a 2-fan system, one that blows air through the heatsink and one that pulls it out the other side. So I'm just mounting these on. Be sure you've got it mounted the right way. You don't want a 2-fan cooler to be blowing, both into the heatsink. That's just going to cause you serious thermal throttling problems. So a good way to test is just to put your hand in front of it or behind it and make sure that there's air blowing through. Pretty simple stuff. The RAM we've got right here. Same again, there will be 2 dedicated slots for 2 RAM sticks. Make sure you check your motherboard manual for those 2 slots. It may not work if you plug them into the wrong slots, so make sure you slot them in, you push them down nice and easy, and you'll hear that click sound once they're up and running. So those are both installed there, straightforward. Next up, we're just going to be installing this power supply. Make sure that's fixed properly. A little screw hole at the back, I think, that we're putting in now. Yep, this is just to keep it nice and solid. So it's not going to go flying around anywhere on us. Not that it would, but I've picked these up before without putting the screws in properly, and it was an issue. Last step here, inserting the GPU. This is the 5090. So much better than the 3060 we're installing, and almost as big as the whole rig itself. It's an absolute beefcake of a thing. Definitely something I've been enjoying messing around with recently. Make sure you check out that 5090 video if you haven't, by the way. Really enjoyed making that video, and the profits that are coming from that OctaSpace rig. A really, really nice one. Simple stuff next, just powering it up. Plugging in the supplied power cable. We'll connect that back to the back to the power supply in a second. Then we proceed now to put all of our our motherboard power connectors in. This is the 24-pin ATX power supply cord. That will be followed by the 8-pin CPU cords, which go in behind the fan here. You won't be able to see it. There's only going to be 2 power outlets on them. The general rule of thumb is if the cords don't click in easily, they're not supposed to be there. So make sure you pay close attention when you're installing these. You really don't want to go forcing anything and causing yourself some potential problems. And that's it. That simple. This rig is up and running. Our budget is up and running. All right, so let's first talk about HiveOS. So OctaSpace, the Docker itself, is going to run, in this case, off HiveOS. So let's talk about how we would set this up. So over here on your HiveOS farm or your main page, very easy, go to HiveOS, make an account. It will look exactly like this. I'm gonna come up here and click the plus button, click add worker. We're gonna add a rig. So for your case, because you don't already have an existing rig, what we're going to do is we're going to install HiveOS onto your rig drive. This is the easiest way to do it. You'll click this, you'll click Linux, because that's the operating system we'll be using today. You'll have to download the latest image, which we have already got. So we'll click on that and go back. And you'll also need to download Balena Etcher. So Balena Etcher is what's going to flash this version of HiveOS onto your SSD, which is this little thing right here. And to be flashing it on with Balena Etcher, we've just got one of these external M.2 SSD drives. So basically You can grab one of these off Amazon, super cheap, right? Pretty self-explanatory. You pop this in, you'll close it. Hopefully you can see that. This goes in like that. And then the USB-C port side will just go into your computer. So we'll do that now. All right, so that is plugged into the computer. We'll click next. We'll click next again. And we're gonna need to download this rig configuration. So we'll click download. It'll save there in our downloads. We'll go to connect rig. The next step will be Balena Etcher. So here we have Balena Etcher right here. We will click flash from file. We will click on this HiveOS right here. This is the latest one that we've just downloaded. We'll select our target. Now be very careful here. We want to actually select the right one. You don't want to overwrite anything you've already got on your PC. So we'll click the SPCC_M.2, click select and click flash. Click yep, I'm sure. And this will generally take a couple of minutes depending on what operating system you've got. I've got a 9950X and a 4090 in this PC. So as you can see, it happens pretty quick, but even on slower hardware, it'll take no more than a couple of minutes. So once that's completed flashing and verifying, you're going to go into your PC itself. So we can see right here, we've got our Hive drive. Now remember that rig config we downloaded? We're gonna drag that from our downloads, which is right here, copy and paste it into that folder, close that, eject it, and then you're going to insert this M.2 into that rig. You're going to need a monitor and a keyboard, and we'll take you through the next steps to get HiveOS completely up and running. Okay, so as we can see, the M.2 is installed there. We'll just power this on. It should boot up in a second, just in case. Yep, there we go. And then within a minute or two, this will auto register itself in the PC in HiveOS, and then we'll take the next step. All right, so as we can see, currently auto registering, it's downloading the latest miners. This will run its course. And as you can see, it's already started mining on another flight sheet. So let's jump back on over to the PC and have a look in HiveOS, and let's get OctaSpace installed. So now that HiveOS is installed, the next step is super simple. We're over here on the OctaSpace installation docs. Now, there is a lot of different stuff you can look through here, but you won't need to do a lot of it. The final command, which I'll show you in a second, pretty much does everything, right? And if you run into troubles, that's when you'll do something like speak to the Discord members, see if you can get some information through ChatGPT, but I don't think you're gonna need to do any of that. I haven't so far. One thing I would recommend is just copy and pasting this driver update. So you would simply click copy, and you would simply click paste and enter. Now I've already got this installed, so we won't do that right there. We'll delete all that. All you're going to need to do is scroll down further. There will be an OctaSpace installation right here. You'll click this. You'll put it in, press enter. You'll start testing your download speeds, installing Podman, all that stuff, and it will get you underway. Now on this particular rig, we have switched rigs. We already have OctaSpace installed on this, so it won't spit out a token, which is what you need, the same as you saw in the Windows installation. But if you were to get that token, you would simply go back into your OctaSpace account like so, click add node right here, and enter your token in exactly the same as you do it on the Windows. So very simple and easy to set up. As you can see, it says it's installing the node software, but it's already done. All this has done for us is upgrade, but for you, it will spit out a node token and you're away. So that is going to wrap it up right there, guys. If you're looking at getting started, hoping this little guide or tutorial, whatever you want to call it, helped and it's got you online earning some passive income, because that's what it's all about, right? Utilize the hardware you've got or build a new rig and make a little bit of passive income. If you need any more assistance or have any questions, make sure you join the Discord. The link will be in the description, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.